Can you talk with the animals? Anyone who has ever been close to a pet knows that you can, and that animals can understand some of the things we say to them. They don't talk back, of course, although they will occasionally give us a simple meow or scratch at the door to tell us they want to go out. But can you really hear the animals? Can you actually go into their minds? Can you truly know what they are thinking and feeling? Can you carry on an intelligent two-way conversation with them? To more and more people these days, the answer is yes.
First of all, it's a lot easier than anybody thinks. And I know that's easy for somebody to say who does it easily and naturally, but I think the most important criteria to learn to do it is to just genuinely and deeply love animals.
To learn how to communicate with the animals opens your world. It gives you a tremendous dimension of living that you're not going to experience otherwise.
Oh, anyone can do it. How well you do it is how much you practice.
Once we open up to an animal, we're opening up our heart to ourselves, really to know ourselves spiritually.
If you're even open to the possibility, it will come through. And so animals teach us to be in the moment. They teach us unconditional love. And wouldn't it be great if everywhere you went, an animal ran up and said hi to you, just like people would do?
You know, when I first started doing this, people come up to me kind of, you know, a little embarrassed and say, I've always had to hide this, but I've had those kind of experiences too. Now people never say I have to hide this anymore. They just talk about it to each other and say, this is the greatest thing, or this is the most interesting thing, you've got to hear about this.
Today, the animal communication movement is quietly exploding. Thousands of people now say they can communicate with animals. And these communicators don't claim to have mystical powers. They are not particularly psychic. They are just ordinary folks who have learned to listen to what animals have to say to them. This program is an account of the growing number of animal communicators who are discovering their closeness to and ability to reach the consciousness of the animals, trees, plants, and even the rocks with which we share this earth.
Animals are a part of us. The plants are a part of us. The earth is a part of us. When we deny that, we lose a huge part of ourselves. We become disconnected and we become ill on an emotional level and a physical level.
Come here, you brat.
Beatrice Lydecker is an icon of the animal communication movement. As early as the 1970s, she was one of the first to come out of the closet when she acknowledged that she could converse with animals.
I experience what they experience. I can see the pictures in my mind of what they look at, and I feel their emotions, and I interpret that to people.
Although she has moved on to other interests in the intervening years, she does occasional telephone consultation from her modest farm outside Portland, Oregon.
It's neat. Yes.
I started doing this in 1969. A lot of people wanted it. You know, they really wanted to have that relationship, but we're afraid to say it.
Hi, Mary Lou. Oh, Mary Ann.
Like many communicators, Beatrice Lydecker says she first discovered she had the gift as a child.
I was at a lady's house, and she had a huge flower pot, and this cat was chatting away and telling me all about his experience, and he looked up at me, and suddenly his eyes got big, and he ran around behind the flower pot and looked at me, kind of peeking around the flower pot. And I said, what's the matter? He said, how come my thoughts are in your head? And it was like he suddenly realized that I was picking up his pictures, and he saw a reflection of it in his own mind. It was so funny because he hid and he thought, you're not supposed to do that.
Come on, booties. Come on, big boy.
Penelope Smith is perhaps the best-known animal communicator in America, and is arguably at the epicenter of the movement today. She has trained hundreds of people in the art of animal communication, and her students have gone on to train others. Like Beatrice Lydecker, she too discovered the gift early in life.
Oh, sweet boy.
Well, I've always communicated with animals as a child, as a baby. I always was aware that animals were intelligent beings who could communicate, and I never lost the ability. I was socialized the same as other people to think it was my imagination, but I had a very traumatic childhood, a family that was very dysfunctional, and the animals were really my friends.
From her mountaintop home in California, she practices her gift on a menagerie of animals. Carol Gurney of Agoura, California, is one of the most widely known teachers of animal communication. More than 1,000 students have attended her workshops in the last 10 years.
It was my veterinarian who introduced me to the whole subject. And he told me that there were 3 people that he knew of that were doing this. There were 2 women and a man. And I basically called Penelope Smith up, asked her to come out. She did a consultation for me with my animal, and I saw some changes. So what it did for me is just piqued my curiosity. And from there, that's where I found out that we really all have the ability, and we're born with it.
Although she has learned much from Penelope Smith and admires her, Carol Gurney feels that her method of conversing with animals is more geared to the beginner. Many animal communicators have specialties. Teresa Wagner deals with issues surrounding euthanasia, death, and grief over the loss of a pet. With a master's degree in counseling, she often consoles those professionals who must put animals to sleep. Like some other communicators, Teresa Wagner traces her ability to talk with animals back to an unhappy childhood.
My childhood included some pretty severe abuse, some sexual abuse, and so my cat was my solace. She was my solace and my support, and I would come to her and I would cry and I would hold her, and she was just tremendously supportive, as we hear adults talk about today when we have hard times or we're sad or we're brokenhearted or depressed, and we go to our animals and they're there for us. Well, she was there for me, but I remember her speaking to me and hearing it, and it was a place in which I could be normal and I could be safe.
When people are having problems with the health of their animals, they often contact Anita Curtis, a communicator living near Gilbertsville, Pennsylvania. Anita is from the cautious wing of the animal communication family. She won't say that she can heal animals, but freely admits that animals do tell her what's hurting them.
I started talking to the animals because I was just delighted to think that I could hear something that they would say. I could fill a need. I could know whether the cat didn't like tuna fish anymore after he had eaten it for 3 weeks. And I could say, well, would you like salmon tonight? And it started out that way, but then it became so overpowering. There was so much that could be done, so much help that could be given, that I just couldn't stop. And it became consuming.
Okay, so who are we going to see for you today?
Lydia Hibby calls herself an animal psychic. Over the years, her uncanny ability to talk to animals has brought her, by her own count, more than 60,000 clients and numerous appearances on television talk shows. She, too, believes that everybody has the ability to talk with animals.
My mom said when I was little she would take me on nature walks, and she said that I would communicate to her, the dog said this or the cat said that, and she never discouraged me. So one of the things I really enjoy communicating to people about is that children are very, very good at this. And we all have this ability. As far as I'm concerned, it's a God-given ability that we're blessed with.
That good girl, Clovis.
This is a typical case for Lydia Hibby, trying to communicate the feelings of a mistreated mule to its new owner.
Yeah, hi, sweetheart. Can we say hi to you? Good girl. It's okay, good girl.
I had chiropractics done on her hips a while back, and what does she think about that?
Well, she said that it was like, wow, she really felt the adjustment, but beyond that, she said, I just started feeling strange and different. It was kind of unnerving.
Yeah.
I was basically her last shot to get her broke and trained, or they were going to have her destroyed. She had a really bad problem. She was petrified of people. She'd been abused. she actually carries scars from the people that have abused her.
I mean, I asked her if she has any concerns about your other animals, and she said, no, we each do something different, and it's okay. And she said she likes looking at everybody that comes up and everything, and she checks them out. It's okay, honey, it's okay.
Lydia helped me so much more because she made me understand that that Clovis just won't ever totally trust anybody else. It's me or someone like me who's had a lot of background and who knows where she's coming from. I asked her, you know, is there a chance that she'll be quiet and be real trustworthy around other people where she won't be so afraid? She said, no, the mule can't understand how some of these horses can just trust everybody. She said it's not in her makeup, and she probably never will.
I tell people I'm human. I can certainly make a misinterpretation. Sometimes the animals, they don't lie, but they bend the truth a little bit. And so if I ask them about a situation, they'll say, well, and they can kind of, because they don't want to get in trouble. So it's really an interpretation, and some days are better than others. But if someone's open enough, if they've made themselves vulnerable for me to talk to their animal, I really honor and respect that.
To those who teach it and those who try it, animal communication apparently works. But how does it work? And how can we all learn to do it? Here are some thoughts from the experts.
Well, let me try to explain it the way I explain it to a new client who's never done it before, but they call and they want to try this. First of all, there's so many words used for this kind of work: psychic, clairvoyant, telepathy, animal communicator, and I really don't care what it's called. But I do think in our language, the one word that describes what we do the best is telepathy. And if you look that up in the dictionary, you'll see something like the transmission of feelings over distance. And I think that most of us have an everyday experience of telepathy frequently. The situation where you can't get somebody off your mind, maybe it's your Aunt Sally who lives in Kansas, and you just can't get her off your mind, and lo and behold, a day later she calls you, or you get a package or a card in the mail, and then you call her and you both make a joke. Oh, isn't this funny? I just have been thinking about you for 2 days. And I think we've all had that kind of experience. I don't think that's an accident. I think that's telepathy at play.
I don't know which part of the brain it is. I have no idea, but I have a phone in my car, and I know how to use that, but I don't know how it works. I have no clue as to how, but I could teach you the same way I could teach you to use the phone. We are all wired for telepathic communications. Early man did not have vocal cords to develop the way they are now. So he communicated telepathically, just as the animals do. And now we don't need it because we have language, answering machines, email. So we've gotten away from telepathic communications, but the wiring's there, and we just have to dust it off and use it again.
First, it takes taking away any attitude that animals are less than you or are separate than you, are objects in any way, but that they're fellow beings of different physical nature, but of the same spiritual nature. We're of the same essence. And then sitting quietly with them. We live in a culture of speed where everything goes really fast, where our minds are racing all the time. We're trying to keep up with TV, our traffic, and everything else. And you actually need to slow down and get really quiet and learn how to open up the receptors. And first you have to calm your own mind down. To listen to another, you have to calm yourself down. And getting into that space and focusing on the animal in an attentive way, an open way, starts to open the door to being able to receive their feelings, their thoughts, spiritual perceptions, feeling perceptions, extended senses beyond the ordinary, beyond observing the color of their hair or how their ears are cocked or how they're sitting. It's like getting back your extended senses, actually the perceptions the animals always have and never lose.
So once we've got ourselves down and we're listening better to ourselves, and what I tell people is just sit quietly with yourself. Maybe start with just 5 minutes a day. Don't put a whole lot of pressure on yourself. And then sit with your animal. Once you've allowed yourself to be quiet with yourself, and I tell people to start with breathing. Take lots of deep breaths, because it's through your breath that you're going to relax your body and relax your mind, so that all of the thoughts of yesterday, today, and tomorrow don't matter to you so much, and you're not attached to any one thought. Once through the breath, then have your animal with you in the room and just allow yourself to be with the animal, almost as though that there was like a laser beam coming from your heart to them and you're connected. And see, what does that feel like? How does that feel different than being just by yourself? And impressions might come up. You might get a feeling of that this animal is so full of compassion, or you might get a real sense of curiosity, or even a word might come up of teacher, because what you're getting from that animal is going to be your teacher.
The other thing I suggest people to do is get a notebook and do what I call a body scan, which is really beneficial for everybody, and find a quiet place and then start with the animal in the front of around its head and just say, how does your head feel? And if they have an ear problem, you'll feel it in either one of your ears, and then you kind of break the animal down in sections by their body parts, and you'll feel front legs, back legs, and if there's a tail, you'll feel it. And then by keeping a journal once a week, if you get a chance to do that, that information is just going to keep cropping up so that you can give that to your veterinarian. I've had so many people say to me, you know, I had no idea this ear thing came up 3 times and my vet really paid attention to it. So that's a very beneficial thing to do, and that's something people can do at home.
Become aware of your emotions and how you feel physically, because they're going to project it a lot. If you walk in a room and you suddenly have a headache and you walk out of the room and it's gone, you go, uh-oh, one of my animals has a headache. You know, become aware of the changes in your own body as you're around the animals.
I get all the perceptions. For people, it depends on what senses are open. I get the images, say they're communicating about what they've been doing all day. I get their images, I get their feelings, how they feel about it. I also get what they tasted, what they smelled, all of the senses, and it also comes across as messages or thoughts, which I translate into words.
They're all individuals, you know, so some want to communicate more than others.
I sort of get it as a complete perception package, which then I can relate to other people in words.
I get the information in a number of different ways, and I think it's common amongst communicators. I certainly hear words. After all, companion animals live in our homes and our lives, and they learn our language, so I hear a lot of words, phrases. And animals, just like people, have personalities, so the more extroverted ones give paragraphs instead of just a sentence. And in addition to those words, I'll often also get a response to a question in images or pictures. If I say to a horse, your person wants to know your very favorite thing to do, and they might not say, gallop as fast as I can up the hill on my pasture, they might just show me a picture of them doing that. And that's a pretty easy thing to translate. And then on a deeper level from pictures, they'll often just show me their pure emotions and feelings and the energy. And that's not unlike when any of us might walk into our home and a family member will be there, and without a word being said, maybe even without looking in the eyes, we can just feel the energy of, oh, they're really upset about something, or wow, they're really excited and happy about something. And it's just this sense of energy. And so telepathically, when we ask an animal certain questions, we can get the words yes, the images yes, but the strongest part of telepathy for me that I receive is that energy and the feelings.
And then it's a matter of practicing. It's like learning Spanish or Italian or French. If you go to a class, you know, you learn a few things, but after that you've got to go out and you practice in a restaurant and so forth. You couldn't possibly speak fluently after your first try. And that's what I think a lot of people do. People expect too much of themselves, and then they set themselves up for failure. So I tell people, take it slow and go out, but practice with animals you don't know at first, because you have no preconceived notions. Your mind can't get in the way then. And ask those animals, what are your favorite activities? Ask them what their dislikes are.
There are a few books on it. Penelope Smith has written a book. I've just written a book called How to Hear the Animals. You can go to a workshop, or you can just take a few deep breaths and try it yourself.
When the producer of this program lost her pet of 16 years in a swimming pool accident, she knew she wanted to get another dog, one that had similar looks and personality of the dog she had loved so much, but had lost.
How are you? Oh, fine. Is this the baby you told me?
In her case, her groomer knew of an available pet. Janice was taking care of an abandoned dog until she could find a new home for it. Like so many things in life, timing seemed to be just right.
Yeah, we'll get her nice and cleaned up for you before you take her off to the new home. Let's do it. Let's get it trimmed. Okay.
When a new animal enters our lives, we are often curious about its background, especially when the animal comes to us as an adult. We want to know about its temperament, its experiences with humans, its likes and dislikes, so we can better judge how the new member of the family will fit in. For those answers, an increasing number of people are turning to animal communicators.
So who did you bring for me to talk to you today?
This is Mandy.
Okay.
Mandy went to visit with Lydia Hibby, who began their session by scanning the dog's body for clues to her past.
Okay, and when I talked to her, I asked her, I said, tell me about your life previous before coming to you. And she said, I've had about 2.5 situations. The first situation was she was primarily a caregiver to a woman who was bedridden. And she said, they kind of carried me, and I never really walked on a leash, and I had never been anywhere before. And then I just see a lot of trauma happening. I just see like what I would conceive as EMTs coming into the house and taking her out in a hurry. And she said, I was so panicked, I followed the ambulance for a while, and then I got lost. And then she said she was just walking all over trying to find someone to help her, but she said I had never been out in the real world. I didn't really know what it was like. Didn't have a collar on because she was primarily in this woman's bed the whole time. Never been on a leash before, so that was all new to her. And she was out there for quite a long time because she said I had never been socialized. I've never really walked on a leash. I didn't know how to do those things. She had never had a collar around her, so she didn't know quite what to do. She's getting visited here.
Yeah, they're visiting.
So, yeah.
Well, does she seem not traumatized by all this, huh?
She was in shock for quite a long time. I think she wandered around, and then she learned how to go into garbage cans and things like that just out of necessity, because she visualized to me that she saw a big black dog, like a lab mix, and she was following that dog along, and as he would do things, she would learn how to get into the garbage cans. And she said I wasn't big enough, but he would knock them over. And that's really kind of how she learned to be out on the street, and she was out there for several months, she said. And a couple people tried to grab her, and she would go up to them and feel uncomfortable and then run away. When I did a body scan on her, she shows me this part of her shoulder is very sensitive. She said that she either fell out of a car or banged herself, so there's some tension and discomfort there. She also doesn't care how she looks. She appreciates that you keep her groomed and clipped, but she said, I don't really care. How I roll out of bed in the morning is not a problem. And she said, I didn't know what I looked like until you showed her in the mirror, and she went, oh, is that me? Oh, okay. So she didn't know that that's what she looked like.
There is no way to verify whether Lydia Hibby's conversation with Mandy did indeed yield her true history. But her vet did acknowledge that Mandy's left shoulder and side were sore and out of alignment. Now at least her owner has peace of mind that Mandy will fit into the family. And so far she has, beautifully. When Judy Zella's Swiss Mountain Dog began having trouble with his rear legs, she took him to see Anita Curtis for help. Anita believes animals began confiding in her about their health back when she was a child, when a horse told her when and why he was going to be sick. Ever since, she has been trying to help people like Judy interpret their animals' symptoms.
He has hip dysplasia, he has arthritis, he has problems with his neck, and he was also very lame in his front left paw. And I took him to a lot of vets, and no one could figure out exactly what was wrong with him. And they advised me to have surgery, which I really didn't want to do that. So I thought, in a last desperate, I would try animal communicator, which I really didn't believe in it. So I called Anita, and I asked her if could she tell me what was wrong with my dog, especially the lameness in his front left paw. And she said, well, let's ask him what's wrong.
I asked her the dog's name and description. As she talked about her dog, she formed a picture in her mind, and I believe that's how I make the connection. Then it became a three-way conversation. I could hear her questions, I could hear the dog's answers, and relay those answers to her. And then she went on about the business of getting the pain taken care of. I don't diagnose. I don't prescribe. I'm not a vet. But I know what the pain is. I won't even tell you what vertebrae it is. I'll just show on my neck and say, well, come down about 2 inches from here, and it's right in there.
I had him to the chiropractor about 5 times, and he had helped him with everything except for this lameness. So I took him in, and the chiropractor worked on him. He said, Judy, I don't know what it is with this paw. I can't, this lameness. I said, you're going to think I lost my mind. But I went to this animal communicator, and she told me it hurts him right here, right under your ring finger, your left hand. He said, well, worth a try. Picked up his paw, looked at it, and he looked at me and he said, she's right.
He just feels a little bit of soreness right in here, huh, baby?
I said, well, he also hurts at the base of his spine. He said it's the base of his spine right at the top of the tail. He said, let's give it a try. Looked at him. He said, she's right again. That's exactly what's wrong with him.
Come on, buddy. Derby. Come on, buddy. Come and stay. That's a good boy. Derb.
I thought it was the dumbest thing going. And what changed my mind is that she has helped me with all of my animals. I mean, she has done miraculous things for my animals. It's just amazing.
One that I just love was a young woman called, and the horse was just joking around and joking around, and just one of those guys that would kind of nudge you in the ribs if he could. And he said to me, tell her I'm pissed off. And I said to the caller, he seems to be agitated. And in my head I heard, no, tell her I'm pissed off. So I said to her, he seems to be very agitated. He said, well, you just tell her I'm pissed off. So I said to her, he says he's pissed off. And she broke up laughing. He had a urinary tract problem. And that was his way of making a joke with her.
I think one of a fun story for me was Kate Porter, who used to have the Animal Hour. She was on radio. Asked me to talk to her 700-pound pig. And she wanted to make sure that the pig was okay. She had sent the pig up to a farm because the neighbors complained because she couldn't have him in the backyard anymore. And she wanted to make sure that he was okay and just wanted to kind of test me in a way as well, I think. And when I tuned into him and started asking him questions, oh, he was just so delighted that she was wanting to know about him. What was he thinking, etc. And he just, oh, you know, he wanted to tell me anything and everything. And so I asked him, I said, well, tell me, how do you like it up there? And he said, well, it's kind of boring. He said, the only fun thing about it are the chickens up here. The chickens make life interesting because they used to sit on him. And they actually used to groom the pig. And the person who owned the farm said, you know, I have never seen such a relationship with this pig and the chickens in my life before, but your pig loves them. But he said to me, he said, you know, I miss her voice. I miss her telling me stories. And he said, would you tell her that it's okay to touch me, that I really miss that? So when I fed her this information back, she was stunned. She said, oh my God, Carol. She said, you don't know this. She said, but I play guitar and I sing. And I would sing him stories. And she said, one of the things that I've always thought about was, I've been afraid to touch him. She said, you know, because he's quite big, and I didn't know whether I could get hurt. And she said, what you're telling me is that I'm not going to get hurt, and that it would be okay to touch him again. She said, I'm thrilled. And she said, after the show, I'm on my way up, and I want to go visit him. So this pig was so excited to be able to converse with somebody, to tell them what his needs were, etc., that he really missed seeing her. You know, he didn't want to be left just at the farm without having the relationship with her again.
I had a horse, they were going to cut the horse's tail off. And so they called and said, what is going on? This animal's in terrible pain. We can't find anything wrong with the tail. So the horse said, well, I was standing there scratching my rump against the wall and I felt a prick. And then I started getting a pain in it after that. And then I told him, I pinpointed, even over the phone, I could pinpoint exactly on the tail where it was. They went there and they decided to do surgery and open it up, and all this pus deep inside opened up and a big splinter came out. So it saved the horse's tail.
There was a dog, 2 dogs that I talked to the other day, and this woman absolutely just came out of curiosity. She said, Carol, I love my animals, I think they're happy, but I just want to know what goes on in their mind. What do they think about during the day, etc. And it was a little Pomeranian, and the other dog was a Rottweiler. And the Pomeranian showed me a little saddle being put on the dog's back, and the Pomeranian saying, I want to ride this dog, so I can really kind of like whip him into shape, really move him where I want him to go, etc. And I thought, oh, I don't know whether I've lost it or not, but I've never had an animal say this. My God, what's going on? So I finally said to her, I said, I have no idea. But I said, I get this little saddle on top, and your dog wants to ride your other dog like a horse. And the woman's response to me was, Carol, I can't believe you got this. I can't believe you got this, in that this is what I think of all the time. I've actually thought about making a saddle so my dog can ride my other dog like a person would ride a horse. And she said, they actually do listen to our thoughts, don't they? Because how else would my dog know that? And so they have a great sense of humor.
What's wonderful is when I was doing the search and rescue stuff with my dog, I was at part of the Mountain Wilderness Search and Rescue team. I have 2 Belgian Tervuurens that I wanted to try, so I was testing them. And so we went out one day and we were training them to find a dead body in the river. We didn't know where he was, so the dogs pointed him out. Well, the divers went down with a body bag and brought the guy out. Well, one of the things that we always do, we gotta let the dogs find and say, oh yeah, you found him, So we always introduce them to the person that we brought up, whether it's a body or a live person or whatever, because they've got to be rewarded, because their minds have to be rewarded, like, well, yeah, I did the job and this is what I did it for, and oh, okay, I've been praised for that. And I took Tony out there to check, they had him in the boat, and he went out on the dock and sniffed him and totally freaked. And a lot of dogs can't handle being around bodies. They freak. And he did. And when we got back to the car, I said, what's the matter, Tony? He said, don't you ever do that to me again. And I tried to speak to him and touch him, and he'd move over and he'd turn his head to the window, and he said, don't you ever do that to me again. And for about 4 hours, that dog kept looking at me and said, don't you ever take me near another body. I don't ever want to go near another body. And I thought, well, then I know I cannot use this dog for search and rescue.
My horse will tell people that he is 5 years old when he indeed is 24 years old. And the reason being is he said, I want to tell them I'm 5 because if I tell them I'm 24, the next thing that usually comes out of their mouth is, oh, well, how long do horses live? And then they start feeling sorry for him. And he said, oh, I don't want that coming back to me. If I tell them I'm 5, they think I'm just a baby and so forth. And he likes that response.
I don't talk to my animals all the time. I mean, they come by and they'll talk to me, and also they'll say something to me or chat. Like the new dog that we got back, and I said, why are you having such a hard adjustment here? He says, I don't know the rules yet. And the other dogs are trying to teach him the rules, and he's got to have time to just mentally heal from 2 years of being in an animal shelter and thinking every day he's going to die. I mean, the dog was literally on death row because somebody accused him of attacking him, and everybody said no, he didn't, and so it was tied up in a court trial for almost 2 years. And so this dog didn't know every day if he was going to be killed or live. And we didn't know it, and he's the son of one of my dogs. He's 10 years old. And we found him in the animal shelter through an ad somebody put in the paper, and I thought, that's got to be him. And I checked, and sure enough it was. So we fixed the fences and brought him home, and he's just kind of wild right now. But he said, I haven't, nobody's told me anything. Nobody's taught me anything. I don't know what to do yet. So we're just going to let him kind of settle down, let him heal, and just give him love and affection. And then in a little bit of time, I think we can start working on him and trying to reintegrate him in the house.
Many times a communicator can help when an animal develops a behavioral problem. Such was the case when Dudley was adopted from an animal shelter. From the first time he was brought to his new home and left alone in the house, he began to chew things.
The things that he ate were things that were used all the time, like newspapers or magazines that he saw us reading, and he really went for that coffee pot lid. And as you can see, he's chewed it all around here, even took a big bite out here. Several times, as a matter of fact. Yes, and he ate all our coffee table books, too.
Before long, Dudley's people knew it was time to enroll him in an obedience class. Although after the class he became more controllable, Dudley's habit of chewing continued. That's when an animal communicator was called in.
Well, sometimes people will call about a particular behavioral problem, and there's almost always a story behind why an animal does something. So we talked to him, a lovely little dog named Dudley, and Dudley told us a story that the people who had him before he was found and taken to the shelter literally abandoned him. When they left their home, they left, shut the doors and the windows, and left him in here with just a little bit of food. And thankfully he was found before he died for any reason. But he was panicked. He was not only heartbroken that his people just abandoned him, but he was panicked that he would not survive without enough water or food or fresh air. And so there was something about my person leaves the house and shuts the door that set him into panic again, understandably, just like it would a person when a similar trigger happens. So we talked to him for quite a while and assured him over and over that his person would never, ever, ever leave permanently.
If you got a behavioral situation, a problem with your animal friend in relating, it's usually because you're not listening to them. So the first thing that you do is you ask them what is their viewpoint on the situation. And they'll have a whole different take on it than people. And they'll say to you, well, I'm upset about this and my person wants me to do that, but I don't get time with them. Or they'll relate to you their whole scenario and what they're upset about. And as soon as you listen, the animal softens, they're willing to change, they're willing to listen to you. But often people keep this sort of commanding, domineering role. Do this, why is my animal not doing it? Are they stupid? They're not listening to me. I've told them 1,000,000 times they mustn't do this. But did they ever listen to the animal?
I had a case where an animal was beginning to snap at their people. And the strange behavior would be that the animal would eat the paper products if you left it on the coffee table. And the animal would also run down the hall and hug the toilet bowl when the people were in the kitchen cooking. Now that animal almost lost its life because it was beginning to snap, and the people and the trainers said, you know, this dog's becoming vicious. We think you should put the animal down. In truth, that's not what was happening. They called me out, and when I talked with the dog said to me, I feel sick. My stomach is on fire. Therefore, the dog runs down the hall, wraps his belly around the toilet bowl because the toilet bowl is cold and he's just simply trying to help himself by putting the fire out in his belly. I told them that the dog was very sick, needed to go to a vet. They took the dog to a vet immediately, and they found out the liver was so dysfunctional, there was so much bile, that it was actually eating the stomach lining. And why was the dog eating the paper products? Simply to absorb the bile that was the acid that was in the stomach. So the dog was trying to help himself. Why snapping at them? It was the animal's way of communicating to them, I hurt. I am in such pain. I need help. It was really a cry for help. So here is a situation where this animal almost lost its life because we didn't trust our telepathy. We didn't listen. And what we did, we made a judgment and a decision based on what we saw only. And that saddens me to know how many animals have lost their lives because we have really misunderstood them. I can't imagine what it would have been like for that dog to have been taken to the vets and lost its life simply because it was in pain and it was crying out.
Yes. That feels very good. I can ask her to scratch my back. She always does that. She loves to.
Anita Curtis says she can talk to any animal, but since a horse was the first animal to ever talk to her, she has a special affinity for horses.
That's a girl. Thank you.
And of all the horses she has known, Portia, she says, is the wisest. According to Anita, she has written several books on animal communication with her.
Some problems. Portia is an Arabian mare who has the wisdom of the ages. She's just amazing.
Her ribs.
We have asked her about people, and she has told us what the problem is. There was someone who had chronic fatigue syndrome, and we asked Portia, what is making this woman sick? And Portia shot a picture into my mind, and I drew the picture. And then when we looked it up in the encyclopedia and saw the cell that caused it, it was the picture I had drawn. Someone else had Lyme's disease, and Portia described a spiral-shaped organism. And the Lyme's disease bacteria or virus, whatever it is a spiral shape.
She's just the most amazing, powerful being I have ever come across. And very strong opinions.
Portia defies all description. When I have a problem that's just more than I can handle, Portia has the answer. Now, when I say she helped me write the book, I have the opposable thumbs in the computer, and Portia has the brain. So she lets me do the heavy work, and she would just give me the guidelines, tell the story about this, tell the story about that.
She'll ask me, show me your hands. And she'll look at my hands and flip them over back and forth, and then allow me to go back and do some more work on her.
I have meditations in the book about how to become a bird and a cat and a dog and a horse. And I said to Portia, how do I do this? How do I list them? Who's the most important? And she said, oh, just do it alphabetically. Leave me alone. So she's not always into detail.
Oh, Portia.
She demands cookies. When she'll give us something really deep, there are horse treats that we call cookies. And when she gets all finished, she'll say, that will be 3 cookies.
The motion of the earth.
Anita is afraid for Portia. The horse has developed founder, a swelling of the hoof that she tells Anita is becoming more and more painful. Anita knows they do not have much more time left together and hopes her gift of animal communication will ease Portia's transition into the next world.
Well, in my experience with counseling thousands and thousands of animals, they are spiritual beings. They go to the spiritual realm as we all do when we die. We're not only our bodies go back to the earth. And my experience has been that animals reincarnate just the same as humans do, that we go from life to life. And we can go from life to life in different forms, not necessarily in the same form. So some of our animal friends have been human in the past, some of the humans have been animals, and that it all depends on your purpose and what you want to do with your life, what you choose, what form you choose to experience. We're here to experience all kinds of beauty in life. And by being different species, by having different lives, we experience a whole range.
My dog Derby, Black Lab, had been our old dog Puppy. And he was here less than 24 hours. He went down near the barn and he started digging. And he dug and dug. He has not dug since then. But he got a hole about 5 or 6 inches deep, came up with a horrible old moldy ball, and brought it into the house and said, yep, it was still there. So we knew it was Derby. I was pretty sure anyway that it had been Puppy come back to us. But they do recycle. They do come back to us. They love us. They love us in this lifetime. They have jobs with us. And they come back to be our companions, to be our protectors.
I do know that in my past lives I have been a whale many times, and I started seeing them off the shores of Cape Cod in the mid-'80s. And from the very first time, there was just this profound knowing that I knew that world. The first time I heard them live with a hydrophone in the water was in Alaska, and there's a sense of coming home and being at home and being with old family and being that close. It's similar but more amplified than the feeling one has when you go to a different part of the country or the earth, and it's like coming home. You really resonate with that part of the earth. That's how it is for me in being with humpback whales.
Animal communicators have recently been taking their extraordinary gifts of telepathy into the sea to swim with dolphins. Many believe that marine mammals, dolphins and whales, are wise and highly evolved creatures that have a lot to teach the human race, and they are not shy about talking.
They actually verbally talk to you in your head. That's been my experience. That's been my students' experiences. They are probably very high up on the emotional and educational chain as far as experience things with us. But they release endorphins in your brain, so they really put a peacefulness feeling. They're able to, with their sonar, radar where you're having physical problems. I've never seen anybody be around them or in the water and come out unchanged. There's always something that's happened. And so I really think that they're the caregivers for the earth, and the whales are the ones that hold all the information. And so to be around them is really pretty incredible.
Many feel that dolphins especially are master healers whose job it is to heal the earth and the people on it.
Many people have said that the cetaceans are the carriers of the wisdom and knowledge of the earth. And when you're in their presence, you just know that.
Well, the amazing thing with the dolphins that I experienced, first, they're incredible teachers. I've had no one on this earth who could teach me further telepathy than what I know. I've sort of been holding it for other people, and I keep teaching it. But the dolphins and whales have taken me deeper into the universal language, telepathy, into a deeper understanding, which I can't even explain. It's very difficult to explain where it's gone. It's gone into a deeper place where I understand people and animals and the earth even more deeply. They also communicate with their sonar. Now, the funny thing I must tell you about is they spoke to me in English out loud with their sonar. I was in the water with them, and now I get everything telepathically, and they were speaking to me out loud, and they were laughing. They were forming words with their sonar. I could hear them. They were saying to me, "I love you, dive deep, move to the left, move to the right." And at first I thought, this is very bizarre, because I could hear the words under the water in sonar, dolphin sonar.
They communicate just like cats and dogs to us. It's just a little different because they aren't our live-in companions, so they aren't talking about everyday mundane kinds of things, but they communicate just as easily.
But you don't even have to be in the water with them. You can even meditate about them and they will come to you. So wherever you're at, you can have a dolphin experience, which is also wonderful too.
It's profoundly transforming. And even being in the water, after they've gone, they seem to supercharge the water with energy. So you feel bubbly, you feel like you're sort of in the fountain of youth. People start laughing, you just feel like you're in fizzy water.
It's a coming home. And because of the difference in habitat, water versus land, the incredible difference in structure, there's something about bridging that gap that's beyond touching. It's transformative and very different.
Each year, hundreds of thousands of animals are put to sleep in our country's animal shelters because they are unwanted, neglected, or homes cannot be found for them. It's a national epidemic that could be controlled if we only spayed and neutered our pets. It is the mission of animal communicator Teresa Wagner to help relieve the emotional toll that is taken on those professionals whose job it is to kill thousands of animals each day. She feels if they can communicate with the animals they are about to euthanize, it will make their jobs easier and the animals' death less painful.
If there's anything that you communicate to the animals, what is that?
Hopefully that they're going to a better place than where they came from. That's at least what we hope for them.
And if you say anything personally to them, even from your heart, what is it that you say?
Don't come back.
And why do you say it?
Because there's such a bad overpopulation problem, and there just plain aren't enough homes for them all.
Shelters across the country euthanize approximately 7 million cats and dogs a year because of that, because there just aren't enough people who come in to adopt versus the higher numbers of people who come in to surrender animals. And I began working a number of years ago with shelter workers to help them with the grief and the anger that they bear in having to hear those excuses all day long and see these lovely animals, care for the animals, bathe the animals, groom them, try to adopt them, but not all of them get adopted, and there's not enough room for all of them. And so these folks have a very different kind of grief than we do for our own companion animals. It's a traumatic grief, and they really deserve our support. And the best thing we can do about that problem is twofold. We can make a commitment to keep every animal who we bring into our lives for its lifetime. And if something happens that we can't keep it, to personally find another loving, committed home rather than frivolously just surrendering it to a shelter. And the other thing we can do to help is to support our local animal shelters everywhere.
Animal communication, the telepathic link between people and animals. Is it really possible? Can we really talk to the animals? Obviously, a growing number of people believe we can, and not only to animals, but with plants, trees, even the very earth itself. But is this actually true? Or just the wishful thinking of a sincere group of spiritual individuals who want it so much they believe it's possible? That is a question only you can answer for yourself. And you can only answer it by learning to talk to the animals and seeing if it works for you.
What are we so afraid of? What threatens us so much about thinking that animals can communicate? If you feel the love for your animal, you've got to know that there's so much more there.
Animals are here to teach us things, they're here to heal us, they're here to open us to possibilities that we never thought about, and they're sent to us on our life journey to help us with things.
Absolutely fantastic what it does to people. They don't know when they first start out. They think they're going to come and learn some skill that's going to be nice. They'll learn what cat food the cat likes or how to solve the litter box problem. And what they find is it transforms their entire way of looking at the world and their whole feeling about themselves, about other people, and of course their animal friends and all of animals.
You're going to enjoy the truth from your animals. You're going to enjoy other people's animals more, the wild animals more. You're going to see them as living beings. They're not people, they are personalities.
They're very special, and they're so intelligent. They can teach us so much. Unconditional love, loyalty, patience.
Many of us have learned about unconditional love and have learned and practiced exchanging unconditional love with animals, maybe primarily with animals, is not only an okay thing, is not only a healthy thing, it's something to celebrate and to feel good and wonderful about. And I encourage everyone who loves their animals that much to come out of the closet about that and to feel good about it.
why not try? What harm could it do to be at least try it for yourself?
To learn more about communicating with animals and the animal communicators you've just met, visit your local library or bookstore. Arthur Meyer's Communicating with Animals, The Spiritual Connection Between People and Animals, is a thorough history of the animal communication movement in America today, available from Contemporary Books. Beatrice Lydecker has written 2 books on animal communication, Stories the Animals Tell Me and What the Animals Tell Me from Harper and Row, available from B. Lydecker's Naturals, Oregon City, Oregon. Penelope Smith publishes several books, audio and videotapes, and a newsletter, Species Link, available through Pegasus Publications in Point Reyes Station, California. A portion of the proceeds of Teresa Wagner's 3-hour audio program, Legacies of Love, A Gentle Guide to Healing, is donated to animal shelters. The double cassette dealing with the loss of a pet is available from Matters of the Heart. Carol Gurney's comprehensive workshop on animal communication is available in a multi-video set, Talk to the Animals. For more information, contact Carol Gurney in Agora, California. Lydia Hibby's book, Conversations with Animals, is available from New Sage Press. For information, phone 503-695-2211 or visit New Sage on the internet at www.teleport.com/newsage. For a copy of Anita Curtis's Animal Wisdom, How to Hear the Animals, or her Animal Channel newsletter, contact the author in Gilbertsville, Pennsylvania, or on the internet at amacom@aol.com. To experience swimming in the open ocean with dolphins, many animal communication groups contact Bottom Time Adventures at area code 800-234-8464. To learn more about these and other animal communicators, visit your local library or bookstore today.